straight from Boston. It's Founder Thought, the show that has everything from advice, ideas, and inspiration from founders and business owners that made it all happen.
On today's episode, we speak with Will Harris, founder of Boston Brew Company, who roasts and brew a signature blend of cold brew coffee. Will shares how he built a client base using LinkedIn and how to provide next-level service.
Welcome to Founder Thought. So today we're here with Will from Boston Brew Company. So Will, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, born and raised in Boston. I used to be in sales, and then I decided to make the jump and start my own company. I always loved coffee, and it's just I've let the universe take me where it goes, and here I am 5 years later.
So you're, you are the CEO of the Cold Brew Coffee, yes?
Yep, yeah,
Coffee
CEO
Brew
of
Company.
Boston Brew Company.
Yeah, so you are the CEO. Now, before we jump there, before you start the business, have you thought ever, you see yourself in a business owner?
Well, I've always sort of done little side hustles.
Yeah.
And then being in sales, I would always make everyone else money.
What sales you were doing before?
So when I first got out of college, I was doing sales for Log Me In. I was doing software sales. Just banging the phones, selling something I thought was not like whatever I use. It's just, no passion.
Yeah.
And then I decided to quit Log Me In on a whim. And I thought I was going to be a day trader. And I lost all my money in a week because American Airlines was just not good. And then I'm like, all right, now I need to be mature and think about what I actually want to do.
Sure.
And it was weird because I got a job at Martignyetti's, and it was a huge wine and liquor distributor.
Sure.
And it was sort of like a good reality check because they don't just start you off in sales. They make you go from the ground up. They made me a merchandiser where I would have to drive around, set up displays, unload, all the wine from and the spirits from the trailers, and then basically do all the grunt work where the real sales reps didn't want to do. They used to send me to 40 miles South Shore every day just to bring up Carlo Rossi, which is those big jug wines, just the grossest wine, to and just repack the shelves. And then after I proved myself for a year, I decided they made me a sales rep. And then I really started working hard. And that was a grind.
When you said it was a reality check, why?
Because, when you're selling software, you're making good money. You sort of have this ego that I gotta always make six figures, this and that, I know what I'm doing, I can sell anything. But it's nope, we don't care who you are. You're starting at the ground floor just like everyone else in the company.
I'm gonna jump because I was listening for a book over the weekend. They tell you anybody jump in business or doing any business, any kind of, even if you're thinking about only the money, you're never gonna get anywhere. It's absolutely, if you're not passionate about it, if you're not living about it, you're not gonna be happy with it. And success for everybody is different.
Yep.
Because I'm sure you were successful, but probably we were not happy. So it's not about the money. So now, when you quit the login, you start with a wine company. You said, okay, you know what? You start salesperson. You did good job. Obviously, you did very good job there.
Yeah, I mean, I did sales there for 3 years, and I was selling millions and $1 of wine and spirits throughout all of Massachusetts.
Sure.
My territory was I was driving 1,000 miles a week. It was
wow.
crazy. So, and then that was just a grind, and I just I like wine and stuff, but that's something I was never really super passionate about. I was more passionate about the relationships I made with all my accounts and being able to help out retailers do better things for their business, get in touch. And then I basically really wanted to get out of a big company because we had, when the wineries come into town, you have to do what they say. And I'm not I don't really do what people say. I like to do things my way, which is why I became a CEO, because it's we had a disagreement and I sort of said some expletives to my boss. And then the week later I was fired.
It took that long?
Yeah, exactly. It took that long because they probably had to get HR involved. And as soon as you call in a meeting, you see HR sitting at the desk, you're yep, I'm gone.
It's happening.
It's happening. And then a week later, I found Bevy, which is the internet connected seltzer machine for offices. They hired me as their first sales rep. And then I was able to sort of take everything I learned from the wine industry about, doing it myself and, knowing that I had the confidence to sell something expensive. I grew their business tremendously in over a year. But at the end of the year, I'm like, I didn't really make that much money. And I'm like, my commission wasn't the greatest. And I'm like, I really put my heart and soul into this. And like, I don't really have anything to show for it. I'm still broke. And then I'm like, I always wanted to, I would always make coffee in the office. So we had a partnership with another coffee service, one of my competitors now, and they gave us free cold brew, and it was like straight just dirt. It was just so bad. And I was
And
like,
this when you're working with Buffy?
yeah, exactly.
okay.
So they were giving us free cold brew, and then I would always make it, and they would, like, the founders would get mad because I'd always be making like coffee and not doing sales. And then everyone would keep drinking my coffee like in the refrigerator and not the cold brew that was free. And I'm like, I was getting mad because they were drinking my cold brew. But then I'm like, all right.
Something
so after,
here, right?
Yeah, something here. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to like go my separate way. I'm going to try my own thing. I did a little bit of consulting for like to get some money raised. I consulted a couple startups in Brooklyn. So I went to New York for like 6 months. Really found out that I hate New York. And like, yeah, it's just like, I would get like $850 in parking tickets like a month. And I'm like, all right, between rent, food, and tolls, I got no money left.
It's probably cheaper than parking every day because you pay like $100.
Oh my God. It's like, and then everyone's so mean. Like I like nice people. Like
Yeah.
I'm trying, like my whole philosophy in life is like, I like to be nice to people so then they can try to be nice to other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'll let
pass it
people
along.
go. I'll let people go when they're turning.
Or you wave. I hate that when somebody pulls in front of you and they don't give you the wave. That's
Oh,
the worst.
I get offended. I'm like, all right, now I'm going to cut
You're
you
like,
off.
"Thank you."
Yeah, I'm going to cut you off now. So then you learn to tell me thank you. And so I did that for like a few months. And then finally I'm like, I had this like epiphany. And I was sitting in the Brooklyn Navy Yard and I'm like, all right, everyone used to love my coffee. And I'm like, why don't I just do it? I saved up like 20 grand. I had 20 grand in my bank account. And I'm like, I called my parents up. And I was like, hey, I'm subletting my apartment in Somerville. I'm like, that's all taken care of for the year. I'm like, I'm not asking for money. I just need a place to stay where I start my business. Like, I know you don't want to hear this, but can I move home? And they're like, oh, of course. They were psyched for the first like 6 months. And they're like, get out of here. So I basically started off by my brother was a tremendous help to me when I first started. And we would do like lacrosse tournaments. So I had kegs I made, and I'm like, how do I make like, I used to make like a gallon or something of cold brew. I'm like, how do I make like 40 gallons of this stuff?
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, let me look up different brewing techniques. And I basically like called a bunch of like beer brewers, and I was like, hey, how do you guys like brew your beer? Like, what do you use? How do you do it small scale? And they're like, oh, go get like the brew buckets. So I went to this brew supply store. I got like 10 buckets. And it literally looked like it was Breaking Bad. I'm sitting there like weighing coffee, mixing it, put it in here, like wearing gloves. And I'm like, all right, so we made like 8 kegs. And then we went to this.
Your brother was with you in this time, helping you.
He was just helping me out like with
Thoughts,
ideas, and then when I had the events, he would be a big help helping.
So,
because he didn't want to get into like the making of it.
Yeah, but before we jump this, because this is very interesting. But what I will highlight for people, if everybody hearing for Will's story, the journey will take you from, you need to go through the journey will it take. Because not everybody is going to find the success in the fingerprint. The journey, like Will, your journey, it's amazing. You went from company like me to wine sales. You were not happy with it. Then what's the another company? Bevy. Then you figure out, okay, you know what? I learn a lot of stuff in those. Let me try to put it in my way. Because a lot of people, they come for us, they want to start their own business with no experience. You need to learn stuff.
I think everybody goes through that. Like, we've had a lot of conversations with business owners and people that are really just like boots on the ground, just like bootstrapping the whole thing. And I think part of it is if you try to just go directly to getting it done, it doesn't always, it's like it takes a lot longer than if you just get some experience and then just go right at it and use your knowledge and in your learnings to really like build it up, because then it usually is more successful in the long run.
So now when we jump, you start this in your home, family home business. You start buying the Brew. Now before we jump this, like I know everybody like your coffee. I don't think this is easy again, but you believe in something. What you believe making? You know what? I can do it. What you believe, because like I like a lot of people like my pizza, but I'm not gonna open a pizza store. So why? Like what's the reason?
It's funny because I didn't really get that like aha moment until I did my second event. Because like the first event that I did with my brother, like, hey, this is make or break it. Like we're gonna try this. I brought my like 94 4Runner into a field. We had my kegerator, and then like we sold like 4 cups of like cold brew.
Yeah.
And I'm like, uh-oh. And I'm like, it was raining. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. So I was like, all right, let's, go back to the drawing boards, figure out like how I'm going to do this. And I'm like, all right, let's go to farmers markets. And then that's when I sort of had that like aha moment when I kept seeing people over and over again, specifically coming in the farmers markets just for my coffee. And I'm like, all right, I think I have something here. And then I did a Subaru car show in Stafford Springs, Connecticut, because my buddy RJ, his family business is concessions.
Sure.
So he saw a post on LinkedIn. He's like, hey, I need a coffee guy if you want to do this event. And I'm like, sure, I'll try it out. We sold $3,300 worth of coffee in like 8 hours. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, I
was
remember,
the target audience. You need to find the right audience.
and like this is like my friend Ashley was the one that like helped out with it. And I remember I called my brother and I'm like, Chris, you're never gonna fucking believe like what the hell just happened. He's like, what's wrong? What wrong? Did you hit someone? And I'm like, dude, we sold $3,300 worth of coffee. And he's like, what? So I'm like, all right, now I'm gonna like really just dump all my money into it, get a good website, get a good brand. And originally we were going to call it like Colonial Cold Brew. And I'm like, that really doesn't resonate with someone in like Arizona or like Texas.
Good thing you didn't call it this now.
Yeah. And I'm like, it doesn't. And then I remember I was talking with my buddy Max Montiel at like 1:30 in the morning. And I'm like, dude, I know I can do this coffee. I know this is going to work. But I'm like, I got to think of a good name. And I was like, dude, Sam Adams. Like, dude, everyone knows Sam Adams. And I'm like, but then I'm like, Boston Beer. And I'm like, wait a second. Boston Brew is available. I'm like, bye. And I'm like, I think this could go. I'm like, Boston Brew. And then we sat there for like 15 minutes having like fake conversations. Like, yo, I'm going to go get some Boston Brew. I'm like, yo, let's go get that Boston. Yo, hit up Boston Brew. And like, it just kept rolling off the tongue. And then I made this myself on Microsoft Paint.
Oh, wow.
I went on the whole thing. Like
So
I
you
got
developed the label?
Yeah, I went on. I got the license for the Skyline, and then I just basically did all this myself. And then I had to learn Illustrator because the label company couldn't read my my JPEG off Microsoft Paint, so I had to teach myself Illustrator. And then I'm like, all right. So then.
So before we jump there, is this before you moved from the farmers market, or you were in the farmers market?
No, so the labels came during the pandemic. So that's another whole story on its own.
So you were in the farmers market for a while. Then after that, you bought the name Boston.
So I had the name Boston Brew, but then I started trademarking it. So I spent all the money on like protecting myself, making sure I had the LLCs, making sure I actually would talk to every single health department that I would do business with. Everything, because I'm like, dude, I don't want to get arrested. I don't want to have. I have something here. I don't want to get shut down because I didn't do it the right way.
So then the pandemic, you obviously was a huge shift for you.
Oh yeah.
It was, but you decided, you know what? Let me figure out a different way. So this way you start thinking about the name, the label, the bottle. This way you start thinking about, because I think you said it in, where's your product? It is, I know. In like stores, where's your product?
So that after the farmers markets, I wasn't really making a lot of money.
Sure.
And I'm like, dude, I'm only making like $60 to $100 a day. I'm like, I can't build a business like this. So then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take a whole entire day. I'm going to email all my old customers from Bevy. I'm gonna tell them what I'm doing.
I have to try it.
I'm gonna be like, hey, try it. I'm like, hey, I'm making coffee. I want to set up a kegerator in your company, provide coffee. I'm like, if you want to take some samples, That's great. I did an email marketing campaign. I sent out like 200 emails. I got like 40 responses. I booked like 3 meetings the first day. I had breakaway marketing. They like loved it. And then Rios Medicines, Sharon, she was pretty much like the one that like really got my company going. And she like, I had this little mini keg. I went there. I was like, hey, you know, it's so good to see you. Blah, blah, try it. She tries it and she goes, wow, this is fucking delicious. Like in the meeting, slams it down and goes, we're doing this. And I'm like,
Okay.
holy shit. I'm like, wow, that just happened. So they were my first customer. And then she's like, then she started guiding me. She's like, you need to talk to Third Rock Ventures. You need to talk to these people. You need to talk to this biotech, Bluebird Bio. And then it's funny because I go to the receptionist because there's a Third Rock back company. I was like, get me a meeting with Third Rock.
Who's the Third Rock? I'm sorry.
Third Rock's a huge venture capitalist
venture.
in Boston and California. They do biotech investments.
Yeah.
And I straight up told him, like, look, I'm not looking for your money. I just want you to have my coffee. And then I had a meeting with them. Same thing. Everyone loved it. They're like, oh, we'll definitely do this. And then I found one of the partners and I was like, hey, can you take a picture with my kegerator for LinkedIn? And like Sarah, like I took a picture and then all of a sudden I put that on LinkedIn and it got like 25,000 views,
Wow.
like 400 likes. All their investment companies were like, oh, we want one. We want one. We want one. So like 2 weeks later, I had like 12 offices.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
And then I was, I had my 4Runner still. And I was driving around the city and, kegs in the back, just like dropping them off here and there. And then.
But you feel something's taken off.
Yeah. And then I didn't spend any money on marketing.
Yeah.
Everyone would tell their friends. One scientist would leave to another company and be like, you got to get Boston Brew. And then.
I think the name also is very catchy.
The name is catchy.
Yeah,
the name is absolutely catchy. It just sounds pretty badass.
Because also you want to support Boston. Like if you're a business in Boston, like you feel you want that.
And it's my city, dude. I'm like born and raised here.
Yeah.
And it's like, I went to New York. I hated New York, came back in 6 months. And I like,
That's when you know you're a true Bostonian.
you're 100% right. Because it's like, I always like never appreciated Boston when I was like, and then I moved to New York. I'm like, dude, I miss Boston.
Yeah.
I miss Boston. Then I'm like, it gave me even more power to like, do something better than Dunks. Because Dunks is trash. And like, it always empowered me to be able to like put my city behind it. That I'm like, I want to be known for. Boston be known for good cold brew. And people try this. And it's like, so then and every time I would get a new office client, I would just take a picture on LinkedIn. I would put it and be like, hey, welcome Jounce Therapeutics to the Boston Brew family. Everyone would like it and I would get more clients.
And let me ask, this time, your recipe did not change.
The recipe has never changed from day one.
So
if
Did
anything,
you say
I make,
that you brew, that you
I roast
your
brew
own? Oh, wow.
and...
So
and
from where you
bottle
get
it
the
now.
beans?
So I get the beans, Colombian Supremo beans.
Yeah.
I ventured into roasting Honduras beans, Ethiopian beans. Then I got these Jamaican Blue Mountain beans, which are like the rarest in the world. It's like $40 a pound.
Oh, wow.
And it's like I roasted one up and we did a fresh, me and my buddy are there because we're like nerds. We'll like roast coffee and be like, do tastings. And I'm like, we made this Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee. And I'm like, it just smelled like melted chocolate. I'm like, holy
wow.
shit, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So that's like my special occasion stuff. And then the roasting didn't really come for like during the pandemic. That's when when prices started going up, I'm like, if I want to maintain good prices, I got to drop my costs.
Yeah.
Instead of raising my prices, I drop my costs.
So you have to learn roasting.
Yep. One of my
Did
good
you get
friends.
the machine? Or?
So I went and I bought a machine. I when you're in the coffee game, all like the players. So I hit up my buddy at Atomic Coffee and I was like, hey, do you know anyone selling a roaster? He's like, actually, I'm trying to sell one for my friend. And he's like, we negotiate on the price. It was a lot of money, but then I'm like, all right, I have it. I'll buy it. And then a guy at one of my accounts, Olympus, he was the only one to nail what beans I use. He took it, he drank it. He's like, oh, you're using Colombian Supremo beans? I was like, how the fuck did you know that? He's like, oh, I'm a master roaster for hobby. So I always remembered that. 2 years later, I was like, hey, I'm thinking about buying a roaster. I'm like, could you help me out? And he's like, Oh, it's funny you say that. I was helping out this company in Gloucester and they just ended up closing down. I would love to get back into it. So then I took a picture of the roaster I just bought and he goes, holy shit, that's my roaster. And I was like, match made in heaven. So he knew exactly everything. She taught me everything he knew. And like, now I'm roasting some like crazy beans and it's like, I mean, you can taste the flavor. It's like, and then I still taste
rich.
like,
It's
I
nice.
still taste every keg to make sure it's my.
So I feel your journey, you have a lot of help, yes? It feel a lot of people like, I'm not sure if, it's not how...
There's a lot of mental help, but not a lot of physical help.
But it looks like you were in the right time, the right place, and all the time.
Exactly. I talk a lot.
So this is what you need to do. This is what I will advise everybody.
Ask
You build in
questions.
business,
Ask questions.
Because
And
people
don't be afraid to ask for
It's
help.
not that-
People love helping.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah, and
I don't
especially if
think
you
it's-
reach out to your network and you have people that like know something that's in the
Yup.
industry.
I don't think
Yeah.
it's lucky. I think you are there in the right time, the right place, and you're asking the question.
Yeah.
It really is not lucky. It's just you're there in the right place. So now you start processing your beans and you start figure out. Now when you start going for the store, because you put like something where they can a machine.
Yup, the taps, the kegerators in offices.
So when is it become a button?
Well, it's funny.
why?
So this was
When and
forced
why?
because I've never really wanted to do bottles,
Yeah.
and for the better part of 3 years, I was growing exponentially, and then like within like the biotechs, I broke into like hedge funds and investment funds, and then because a bunch of these guys they saw it, hedge funds love having something that someone else doesn't have,
Yeah.
and like so then. Every hedge fund started getting, and then all these big investment companies, these big private equity companies, they started getting coffee, and they became like my biggest accounts. These people would be dropping like 2, 3, 4 grand a month, like not even think about it. And the reason they all told everyone is because my service was next to none. If you call me up like, "Hey, we're out of coffee," I'd be showing up in like 35 minutes to an hour. Like, "Hey, I'm here." They're like, "Wait, already?" Like, and then they would just, I would be their coffee guy, and if anyone wanted, they would always recommend me. So then the pandemic started, or was starting, I should say. And I had like 38 office clients, and I had 3 employees. And I remember so my birthday's March 10th. Everything happened March 13th. I knew something was up because Third Rock emailed me and was like, "Hey, we're closing our offices indefinitely. This whole thing is not this. It wasn't really a pandemic then. Like, we're worried about this. We're closing that. So we know
Everybody
more."
wasn't also expecting it's going to be like, we were expecting it's going to be like a few months.
Oh, like
Yeah.
a month or two.
Yeah, a month.
Yeah,
So
it
I
wasn't
thought, I'm
supposed to be
like,
like,
okay.
yeah.
So then for the next 2 days, my phone was just boom, boom, boom. We're closing,
Oh, yeah.
closing. And I'm like, oh, fuck, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? I'm like, I just lost my whole fucking business. And I'm like, we were doing really good too. Like I was doing, 3 people were making like 30 grand a month. I was like, holy shit. And then all of a sudden it was just 0. And then I was helping these, my friend Heather in Georgia, they had a celery juice company and they were using my place for like storage and bottling. And so I had like all these sample bottles in the back. And I was like, let's just fill bottles. And then I went on LinkedIn, my roots. I filled up a bunch of bottles. I took a picture of them. I go, "Hey, everyone working from home, if you need bottles, shoot me a text, shoot me a DM, $20 delivered for a 6-pack. Yo, my phone started blowing up. And then one of my biggest customers now, Link Squares, their sales director was like, CRO, excuse me now. He's gonna get pissed if he hears that. CRO Steve. And he's like, "I want to buy them all for my sales team." So then we had, a nice 40-person order.
Oh, wow.
And then I hired this 18-year-old kid. I was like, "Here's my Sequoia. Here's 46 packs. Go for it." Kid crashed my car. I'm like, oh man. And I'm like, so then we really learned that this was something that we wanted, that everyone wanted in the area. And then we went from doing 0 business to pretty much the same amount of business because everyone was working from home.
Yeah.
No one knew what the hell was going on with this whole pandemic thing.
Yeah.
And that's what basically saved us. And then once we ran out of the bottles, I'm like, all right, now we need to actually put some effort into getting a good label. And that's when I went on Microsoft Paint because I have a hard
This is
time.
very nice label. What's
It's
that?
nice. It's simple. I like
Simple.
simplicity,
Yeah, what's
straight
that?
to the
It
point.
fit exactly the brand.
Like you could hire a company to do like
Yeah, they
something
charge
half
me
as
like
good.
20 grand, and then they would just do
do
a
something
box
half-
around my name and call it a
fits the
day.
brand. So now in Journey, it sounds amazing. Now in the whole time of Journey, did you have any mentor?
Yes and no. So I had what I always would do whenever I go into these hedge funds and these investment companies. I would just go up right in people's faces. And they'd be like getting my coffee. Like, you like my coffee? You like my coffee? Who are you? What do you do? And then I would start asking them questions. And then one of the CFOs at one of my biotechs, I basically was like, hey, can I like spend an hour with you? I want to just like talk about like the journey you went on and like funding a biotech to like how I need to like think about my business. And he was really integral on like getting my mind right of, like you said, don't even think about the money. Don't ask people for money. Ask them for help. Ask them for advice, and the money will just come.
When you do good job, money is gonna come.
Yeah.
When you
Yeah.
provide a great service, money is gonna come. So now, now let's say you've been in this 5 years. Now, if you come look at yourself well today in the mirror, you think, you know what, we're doing amazing, but I wish if I know this side now when I start the business. One thing, what do you think? I wish if I
everybody's
knew
got
this.
that one item.
I wish I learned two things: to say no
Yeah.
and to be a little bit more. I mean, this has all been like reactive.
Yeah.
We never really planned anything. We're like,
Yeah.
oh shit, there's a pandemic. Well, what do? We fill bottles. Oh, people love our bottles. Now we got to make a label. And then it's just like when everything came back to normal, you know, our offices, because a ton of people that were drinking it, they're like, oh, now I want in my office. So then we started the pandemic with 35 office clients, and now we have like 95.
Oh wow.
And it's like crazy. It's like, and like one of my biggest things, I wish I wasn't as like sort of cheap back in the day. I'm like, oh, let me just buy this van as a Band-Aid van and we'll make it work. We still got the van. Now it's like used car prices. Like, looks like we got to fix the crappy van. Because like you try to buy, and like I wish I sort of like hedged my bets on that a little bit better, and then hired more people back then than now. Because like I'm still doing a lot myself. I have 4 employees now. I have like a brewer, which I still work with a lot. Gerald, who's our delivery and field tech, and then like I work him to death sometimes. It's like, I'm on the field, he's on the field, like, we don't know what to do. So then we hired his brother-in-law to help out in the brewery. And then my buddy Greg, he does all our marketing. My buddy Kevin, like, I had a deal with him, like he can put his like cryptocurrency miners in my like on my fiber optic internet. If he does all my like AR and AP. So he does that. He gets his money in his like tokens or whatever he does. And then it's sort of just like this one cohesive like team of like, because we're all friends before. And I'm like, guys, like I need some help. Like, and then like Greg's been super important in really helping me with like visions and like what to do now. Cause like,
So talking about vision, where you see yourself?
so I
Where you
see,
see yourself first and then your business?
yeah. So where I see myself is like, I need to be able to step back, let the business run itself and get more big picture, where it's like, I do the big picture and I do like all the small stuff too. I need to be more of a, I hate the word like
work in the
boss.
business.
Exactly.
Because now
Yeah.
you work in the business.
Yeah, you want to work on the business, growing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Instead of like, and finding trusting people to just be able to do it. And it's like, cause we have big plans for this. Like we're working on a cold brew martini bottle. And like we already do, we do like nitro cold brew martinis at like the rail stop in Brighton, and they go through, it's all pre-mixed in the keg and they just crank it like 4 or 5 kegs a week.
Oh, wow.
So where you see your business in the future?
So I really want to go, I like to, I want to own Boston.
Yeah.
And then like, cause I always want, I want to go here, I want to go there. And then one person, it was Gerard, who works for a financial services company.
Sure.
He's the one that introduced me to all the hedge funds. And he's like, dude, there's
Focus on
so
that.
much money in Boston. You don't need to think about New York. You don't need to think about Myrtle Beach. You don't need to think about Florida. He's like, till you're making $2 million a year in Boston, like then you can think about expanding outwards.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's sort of like, I want to focus on doing like cool marketing. Like I was thinking about getting a billboard, you know, and just like putting my bottle there just because.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, all right, now I'm gonna spend like $7,000 just so I can look at my bottle every day I go into the city. And then I'm like, now I got to handle all the business. So a lot of it is planning well, and then hiring more people, hiring my buddies full time. Like that's really a goal for me. Like I can't wait till I can pick up the phone. I can call my buddy Zach and be like, quit your fucking job, $100K tomorrow. And I know because he works for like a HR services payroll company. He calls me like every day. He's like, dude, I hate my job. I hate my job. I hate my job. He's like, I just want to like do this with you. And I'm like, dude, well, we got to pay you like $100K, and like he's got like a full family and like health benefits. So it's like, all right, like, but get ready.
So it's just actually, I just remember we had actually a client of us. They are actually a very big company for coffee. They just came for California. They are from California. They just moved to Boston, opened a few stores. What I remember, she told us, she said the coffee business, it's like almost like a drug deal business because it's very competitive. It's very like
Matched like
they like it's like you buying, like she said, like it's all competitive. People, they're willing to do anything to get them handed a good batch or whatever.
Oh, like the beans and stuff.
Yeah. Remember what she said? It's very competitive. She's the CEO of the company. She said it's very competitive. Actually, she's the founder of the company. She said it's very competitive. It's very challenges. So how you break in this market? How, because like, you know, you're not Starbucks.
no,
obviously,
I'm not Starbucks. I'm not Dunks. And the people that drink Dunks like Dunks. They like, you know, that much sugar, that much cream, that much coffee.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's hard to break through their mindsets. So like I set myself away from everyone else as my service. I'm always there. I'm always responsive. Like my phone's probably got like 13 text messages right now. And it's just like I always have open communication with all my customers. I don't leave anyone in the dark. I tell them where I am, what I'm doing, when I'm going to be there, who's going to be there, and what. And if there's a problem, I fix it, and I fix it fast.
Yeah, you see, that's why I eat it.
There's always problems.
Because time we're talking about, I feel you are, yes, you do an amazing coffee, but you're on the service business.
100%.
I think it's a service business more than anything. Because anybody can, like, not any, like,
You can just buy good coffee, relabel it, and do it. But it's the service and the good coffee is a bonus.
I think this was really make you stand different here. Do you want to jump in our question? Because I just want to
let's jump into our rapid questions. All right, so now we're going to do rapid questions. All right, here we go. So just quick fire. Let's go. All right, one word that describes you.
Crazy.
I don't say something.
We won't elaborate on that one.
I don't say anything, but you know.
Right,
I mean, I drink like 96 ounces of cold brew. I just don't sleep.
So what's your favorite food?
Ooh. So my Greg's wife's mother, Alyssa, she makes these lumpias. She's Filipino. They are the most to die for.
What do they have in them?
So she does like beef, and they're like spring rolls. It's like beef and like carrot.
Oh yeah.
And the way the mother makes them, and she knows I love them so much.
Yeah.
She'll give them a batch, and she'll have a bag for me, like Will's bag, and they'll like send a picture, and I'm just like, and we'll fry them up, and I'll eat like 50 of them, and I'll just
that's
crush
awesome.
them. They're the best thing ever.
I gotta try this.
I need some more, Alyssa.
All right. So what's your favorite movie?
Ooh, so I'm a big Star Wars nerd. And like, I know everyone says like Empire Strike Back's the best, but I'm like more of like a New Hope kind of guy. And then like, I don't really like the new stuff, but I would say like a New Hope, just because it's just like, it opened up my mind to like, just like the universe and like something else might be out there. So
It is something. It's something sense.
There's definitely.
100%. We could have a whole nother episode on
exactly.
aliens.
I was just gonna say we could have an entire
It's like
podcast just
it's
talking
ignorant
about
to like think that we're
that
not
actually
alone.
might be a good topic next time.
But there's something else.
All right. So if you had to listen to one song for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh man. I like Rise by what the heck is his name? It's the one that Biggie sampled, like Herb something. And it's like when Biggie sampled, and it's just like when those horns come in, it just like it puts my mind into just like thinking mode, and I'll just listen to it on repeat. And I'll just like, that's what I do a lot. Like I love driving, I love cars. So I'll just go for drives for like hours on end, just listening to music, doing my thinking. If I think of something, I call. Yeah, I'm a nut. I'll call people like 7:07. Like, dude, what are you doing? I'm like, I've been up since 4.
All right. So, what do you prefer, tea or coffee? I think that's a no-brainer.
What do I prefer, like other than my coffee?
No, tea or coffee.
Tea or coffee.
So the question
That's
is
the question.
coffee.
Yeah.
So that's
We know it's coffee. All right. That's
I do make a
could've
cold brew
skipped that.
green tea, which is pretty spectacular, but my coffee.
Oh,
All right. Amazing. Are you more productive day or night?
it looks like the
I
whole
just
day.
don't sleep.
24 hours.
The whole day.
Yeah, so like usually what I like to do is like I'll get up at 5 a.m., 4:30 sometime. I'll wake up. I'll just use that as my like I'll watch some YouTube videos. Like I'm a big Cold Fusion fan. I'll watch some of his stuff, and then basically I leave my house at like 5:36. Get to the brewery, get everything ready for the guys. 8 o'clock goes, they're out. I start going through that. You know, go through all the days of like service. You know, every day's chaos basically. And then once like 5, 6 o'clock rolls around, that's when I start doing my CEO shit, where I'm, you know, planning stuff, I'm buying stuff, I'm trying to like do website edits. And then usually like I'll leave the brewery at like 9 o'clock at night, go home, eat, and then I just start working from like 10 to 1. And then I get like 4 hours of sleep because I have so much fucking caffeine in me. I just don't sleep.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's a problem in its own.
So you're pretty much productive all day.
Yeah. I mean, it's only because I'm like, I have so much caffeine. These have like 350 milligrams of caffeine in
nice.
it.
Oh, wow.
So it's just like,
Yeah, I was looking for that early on the label. I'm like, how much caffeine does this thing have? So
too
I'm gonna
much.
Chug a lug. All right. What do you miss most about being a kid?
Dude, no responsibilities, man. I could just go out. I could ride my bike. I could do dirt jumps. I could, you know, my mom wouldn't be calling me, you know, and just go home, eat, play video games, wake up, do it all
the fun-
again.
the fun
Not
of
have
it
to
all.
worry about paying taxes. Not have to worry about paying people.
But this is the adventure.
It's definitely an adventure.
It's
Like
an adventure
I
being
love what
CEO
I'm
of a
doing
company.
now,
Yeah.
but like, dude, being a kid is great.
Yeah,
but you just can't. You can't really. You're limited in what you can do.
Yeah.
Now I'm like in control of my whole universe.
Yeah, control of your
Yeah.
whole life. Okay.
All right. So do you have a favorite book?
Yeah, Art of War. That's my like.
The Art of War.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
actually, I love this book. I recommend this book for everybody.
Everyone. Know thy enemy. I know all my enemies, and I know what they do. I know how they suck, and I know how I'm gonna do it better.
Yeah, it's very good book.
All right. Name one person who inspires you.
My dad. He's a big inspiration.
Why?
So my dad was always, even though he's corporate and sort of by the rules, he pushed me. So he's like wicked cheap. I'm 100% Greek, and like, dude, my parents are so cheap. Like, dude, my dad he didn't even think of the internet he thought it was a fad. When we were growing up, oh no, internet's a fad, so I'm not gonna buy it. Oh, you want a PlayStation? Go cut lawns.
Yeah.
So he basically forced me to do little businesses here and there to make all my money. There was never a handout. And he basically showed me that I can do it. And then he ended up retiring at like 40.
Oh wow.
Like he had properties in Chinatown and he ended up selling it. And then boom, he's like, I'm done. I'm going to live life. I'm going to raise you kids. And that sort of was always like a goal for me. Like I want to retire by 40. And when I say retire, I mean like start doing cool shit and like start like having like really cool businesses, whether I'm investing or like living in the Cayman
Just stuff that
Islands.
you wanna do.
Yeah, I want to be able
stuff
to
that you
like
wanna do.
not have to deal with like the day-to-day stuff. I just
Yeah.
want to, you know.
Absolutely. All right. So what do you think about setting goals?
I think setting goals is 100% a way to be successful. Whereas if you're like, I was up in Vermont this weekend with my buddy Mike. He just bought a house in Quechee. And we're like, we had so much to do. And like, I'm helped because he's getting, you know, married in like 3 weeks. And we got to get the house ready for like, you know, got painted. So I was like, he's like, and he's a VP. So I look for him for a lot of advice too. And he's like, all right, let's set some goals for the day. He's like, you're going to trim back the bush, cut the lawn. He's like, I'm going to build the barn door. Then we'll like break for lunch. Then we're going to do drywall.
Wow.
And then we're going to build this thing.
You're not the only CEO, you're handyman.
No, yeah, I love building stuff.
Yeah.
And it's more of just like, I like to take a break from this. And like, dude, I cut the lawn for like 4 hours. I felt so great after it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, wow. And me and him are sitting there watching fireworks on the porch, and the fireworks are like that. I'm like, dude, we kicked ass today. Like,
You need to take a break, mind, from this.
Yep.
You need to take a break.
Yeah, just do
mind.
something physical.
Yeah.
All right, so the last question in this section is tell us your biggest fear.
dude, my biggest fear is like someone opening this up and seeing there's like mold inside or some shit like that. I'm like,
Oh my
fuck,
God,
I'm done.
it's not gonna happen. Looks like you take care of your business. It should
But
not-
that's the stuff I like have nightmares. Like literally, I'll have a nightmare about that.
So if I am you, I would be biggest fear in my coffee if does not everybody like it, not mold. Like everybody like it, mold. I think you freaking me without.
Don't give them any ideas.
It's never happened. But
Yeah.
like when you make a fresh product,
I know.
there's
I know.
always I think more of the biggest fear is when I hand off my product to someone, they're not going to treat it in the way that it's supposed to be treated.
Okay.
And then someone's gonna try it and then you think it tastes like shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like no, because John left it out for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
This makes sense. You see, this for me. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's more of like my biggest fear. Is like
Yeah.
I have such high standards and high quality control for this. Like when I drop it off to someone, it's always gonna taste like that.
Absolutely.
And then if someone doesn't follow, like even just keep it refrigerated, it's not gonna taste like. I was on I do all the movies around here, so I had my coffee at the Zendaya movie that was filming here, and then like one of the craft services are like, we left the case out like overnight. Is that okay? I'm like, throw it out. I'll credit it. I'm coming down with fresh ones. Because like, imagine Zendaya tries and she's like, oh, this tastes like shit.
So I don't know who's those people, but it's good. We exam for it.
I didn't know who it was either. I'm like, where is? I'm like walking by and like, oh, that's Zendaya. I'm like, who?
Okay, so next we're going to do complete the sentence. So when I started my business, I wish I knew this.
People have money to invest.
Cool. Leadership for me is about what?
Showing my employees that I do it all as well. That I'm in the trenches. And that I'm not just barking orders. That
Yeah.
I've been through all of this.
Yeah, awesome. This one thing that makes a great team member is what?
Trust.
That's a good one.
Amazing. That's a good one.
Challenges in life or business or what?
Necessary.
Amazing.
Okay.
Actually, you are the first person answered necessary. Good.
In 5 years, my business will be.
Sold.
So we're looking for some sellers out there. Anybody? Any takers? The best advice I would give someone is
Quit your fucking job and do it.
get her done. If given the opportunity to do differently, I would do what?
YouTube videos.
So just actually, I want to jump in the point where he talked about if one thing quit your job and
Yeah.
just do it. I want to highlight this point because actually this is not for everybody.
No.
This why a
not.
lot of people they want to do it, but really they don't have the physicality, the mentality, the passionate, the driven. They're not. So this is why I'm telling you, it's a select certain of people they can do this. So
yeah.
it's not for everybody
Yeah.
because some people they want to do it from 9 to 5, and it's okay. It's absolutely
9 to 5. I'm already halfway done on my day before 9 o'clock.
Yeah,
hits.
so like this
know?
was the whole.
Yeah.
But some people they want to do it. So this entrepreneurial lifestyle, business lifestyle is not for everybody.
It's hard, man. It's hard. You got to devote your time. This is like
You gotta
it's-
believe.
You gotta believe. Like I've put so much time into this. Like it's destroyed relationships. It's very hard to like date and have a relationship when you're building a company because like she wants to hang out and I'm like, no, you can come make kegs with me. And she's like, I don't want to do that. And then like we ended up breaking up and like the company's still here. She's not. And it's just, but it's like you have to be able to take failure. Take a challenge and actually like look at it. How am I going to fix this? How am I going to learn from it? Because dude, insanity is like the same shit happening over and over again. But it's like, dude, shit breaks and I got to fix it. And like, you got to learn to fix it. You got to learn what breaks. You got to learn how you're not going to do it anymore.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So now I think we are on the end. But what I will tell you have something very good in your hand. From what people we meet, people discuss. Some people like we talk about, they have an amazing star, they have amazing. But I really think you have something amazing in your hand, especially if you go to sell it. I think one from those becoming will get from you because it's different, it's unique. So you have something great in your hand. Make it up, buddy.
Thank you. No, I really appreciate that. And that's something I've always sort of like strive for. I want to be that like exclusive cold brew. Like I pick and choose my customers.
Yeah.
And like, I only want to deal with cool people. And it's like, that's why I don't do a lot of like media and stuff too. I want to like talk to cool people. Like I didn't start
It
this.
makes a difference. Though,
Yeah.
definitely,
I didn't
with the
start this
service
business to like hate it. I started this business to love it and love everyone that I do. And like, dude, people depend on me. Like Link Squares, my biggest client, they have like 250 salespeople. It's like, dude, they'll say, it's like, dude, we blasted out our quarter. And it's because your cold brew like powered us.
It's gonna keep people going.
Yeah.
It's like energized. Like I'm now feel I have a lot of energy. Okay, so
All right. So if someone is looking to learn more or get in touch, where can they find you?
Shoot me an email, will@bostonbrewcompany spelled out.com. Go to my website, bostonbrewcompany.com. Find me on LinkedIn, Will Harris. You'll see the picture of me in like a polo shirt. Like I usually only wear this.
Looking all professional.
That's the best thing about being a CEO. I can wear this and no one says anything. I understand. Like I have like 50 of these, so I know what I'm wearing every day.
Yeah.
And then like Instagram, you DM me on Instagram, it goes right to me or Rachel. Rachel's my like social media person, and she'll always just be like, she makes some jokes. It's hilarious.
Amazing.
amazing.
Great.
Okay, we're done.
I think we're done. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Amazing. This was fun.
Thank you for listening to Founder Thought. You can find more episodes wherever you listen to podcasts or on the web at founderthought.com. Founder Thought is a production of Pepper Gang.